Well, hey there. Welcome back to Bob Ross Builds a Van.
I will shake it off and then...
What the hell?
Today we're going to be talking about SumoSprings, both the rear bump stop upgrades. These are the old ones. I'll put the new one right here. Totally realistic. And the spring things that go around the coils in the front. SumoSprings was not a super obvious thing that I was aware of when I first started getting into the van build. I actually just randomly encountered them through a forum. I think somebody mentioned them, having put them in, and I didn't know what they were. I looked into them and they seemed incredibly simple to install, and they are. This is speaking specifically about a Ford Transit, but I've seen it done on ProMasters and on Sprinters, and I think it's pretty equally as simple. This is what the rear piece looks like. This is what you're going to encounter on a Ford Transit on the frame reaching down to the axle. It looks exactly like this. The genius tip that I would give you is you can pop these out like this, and then you can access the bolt on the inside with very little difficulty. A lot of people, specific to ProMasters I believe, actually take a screwdriver, a flathead, and they hammer this slowly out of joint, and then they loosen it that way. We tried doing that with the Ford Transit before we realized you could just pop this out. Turns out you can only turn it so much before you're just making a circle and it's not actually loosening anymore, because the bolt is loose enough inside of here, you're not actually having any traction on the bolt. So don't hammer it away at it, just pop this off and then grab a socket wrench and you can slowly undo that. Just pop the van up onto a jack. Be careful, make sure you have the emergency brake on and blocks under the wheels and you're on a level surface and all that. And then you can get under there. You'll find these very quickly. Pop that off, unscrew this bolt, take the whole thing off, clean off the surface, and then the new ones, I think there are different models or something, because I've seen it done with just a hand, but I actually had to insert an extension to a socket wrench through the center of the SumoSpring hole to reach the bolt on the inside, hold that up against the frame, and then screw it in with the socket wrench. It was pretty tedious because there was very little limited space to work in, but all in all, once you figure out what you're doing, it takes very little time. So that's the back. I would say it makes the van much more stable. It's less of a wishy-washy kind of ship feeling and definitely feels more like a actual vehicle and less like this dangerous cargo van. It also supposedly helps with wind sway, which I haven't had the chance to experiment with yet, but I can see how that would. Moving on. So the other thing, I'll put the piece right here. The coils, SumoSpring coils, I'll put the part numbers and everything down in the description or maybe right on the screen. But these go simply directly over the front springs, shocks, or coils, whatever you want to call them. So the bump stops are for the back and then the coils are for the front. You jack the car up on one side, make sure you're safe and everything. And then once the coil is, there's less pressure or no pressure on the wheel, the coil extends, and then you can insert this piece. It has two grooves and you insert and feed it in so that the grooves catch, and then you slowly just rotate it around the spring until it all is attached, and then you move it into position where you want it. You put these zip ties in that are provided, clip them off, and you are done. I would say one important thing to note is the instructions encourage you to use soapy water to lubricate the surface before you put the springs on. I've seen some people accidentally lubricate the spring, the aftermarket part, instead of the part on the car, and that makes it very slippery with your hands, which is what you use to install this. So actually use the Dawn on the spring, the metal part on the van, not on the part that you're feeding on, and you should be all set. Again, super easy, very inexpensive when you consider how much it might cost to have a shop do something like this, and you can do it as long as you have a flat surface, a jack, and a socket wrench collection, and the parts, of course. And when you consider this stock part next to the aftermarket part, there really is no comparison. It's almost shameful that Ford would insert something like this in the van.
Shame, shame, shame.
But I encourage you to try it. Good luck. Make sure you're on a flat surface, and SumoSprings for the win.
Let's have some water in this painting. I love water.